Hey everyone, you have tuned into our business and tech talks discussions for Wednesdays. I'm that girl, Jenna Carusoa, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today. We're going through the book Crucial Conversations. We are in chapter 7, and today's wonderful episode is called State My Path. And STATE is an acronym, and we're going to get into how we can continue talking and have a healthy dialogue and how to speak persuasively, not abrasively. So at any point in time you're consuming this content, I can only hope you're doing well. Thank you so much, and I always apologize in advance if I waste your time. So jumping straight into it. Again, state my path. How to speak persuasively and not abrasively. Our three major talking points is the introduction to the acronym STATE. After that, it's the what skills, which is the first three letters, S, T, and A. And then section 3 is the how to skills. And that's going to be going over the words talk and encourage. So we're going to break it down for you very nicely. Again, if you've not gotten a copy of this, Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High, Carrie Patterson, Joseph Grenny, Ron McMillan, and Al Switzer. And I wanted to spend a couple of seconds also reading some of the testimonials on here. And if you have been considering getting a copy of this book, please don't consider it anymore. Just do it. It's so worth it. So one of the testimonials is, most books make promises. This one delivers. These skills have generated new techniques for working together in ways that has enabled us to win the largest contract in our industry's history. And this is from Dane M. Hancock, president of Lockheed and Martin Aeronautics. So great feedback right here just from one person. There's plenty more. It's got a 5-star rating. It's been on the New York Times bestsellers list. I've read this book about 10 years ago, so I'm doing a refresher course. So that's my quick little promotional video on why you need to get a copy of this. I'm just going over the highlights and just pulling out a couple of golden nuggets. But highly encourage you to get the book. Very detailed, much more comprehensive, of course, because it is the book. So I'm just giving you a couple of cheat sheet notes right here. But let us just jump straight into segment 1 for the acronym STATE, S-T-A-T-E. So essentially the authors are always encouraging that your heart has to be in the right place before you try doing any of these techniques, and pay attention to when other people feel unsafe. It's a conversation going from silence to violence, keeping open flow of communication and dialogue. And page 120 just says we're going to have 5 skills for talking when what we have to say could easily offend others, and that's can happen easily anywhere. And again, maintain safety. To speak honest, keep safety. It can be done with confidence, humility, and skill. So these are how we're going to break it down. You need to have the confidence to say what needs to be said to the right person, and you also need to believe that your opinion is valid and it has a right to be said. So you need to have that confidence. At the same time, they need to realize that confidence isn't being arrogant, it's not being a stubborn, jerk. It's just knowing what you have to say and who you need to be said to, and then believing that your opinion is valid and worth sharing. So to contrast the confidence, you need to have the humility that comes along with it. And then that's realizing that other people do have valid points. And it's also encouraging you to be extremely humble and to know that you don't have the monopoly on truth. So page 122 has a great quote. It says, opinions provide a starting point, but is not the final point. So we have to remember to, hey, I got something to say, but I know everyone else has something to say too. So the skill comes from those willing to share sensitive information are confident in using a path with candor, and safety. So to stay in dialogue, it's crucial. We don't, despite any type of suspicion, like if you suspect that your husband's having an affair or something, sort of getting crazy in the emotions, despite suspicion, you don't violate respect, and you don't kill safety with threats or accusations. And then the acronym that they give is STATE. So the first letter is S, and S stands for share, and you need to share your facts. Get the facts. Number 2 is the letter T for tell, and that's telling your story. Letter A is for ask. Ask others. Number 4 is talk. Talk attentively. And the last letter is letter E, and that is to encourage the testing, to see if all your techniques are working, if the conversation and flow of communication is still going. So that's just a quick introduction to the acronym STATE. Again, is share your facts, tell your story, ask for others, their other paths. Remember to talk tentatively and to encourage testing. So we're going to continue on here in just a moment with segment 2. At any point in time, again, I hope you guys are doing well. There's so much information here, and I pray that you guys will get a copy of this book. Great, great stuff. So with that, segment 2, the what skill. So the first letter is share. Share your facts. This is so important, and the authors have addressed this several places. It says, drunk on adrenaline. When you're drunk on adrenaline, the survival type hormones that go through your brain, it makes it hard to follow your path of action, which is what you see and hear, which tells you a story that you create in your mind, and then it tells you how to feel, and then after you feel, that's when you usually act. So when your adrenaline's pumped up, you don't really know what your path of action is, and it gets kind of askew. So when we start with emotions, our stories, and our adrenaline pumping, it becomes, in the words of the authors, the most controversial, less influential, and most insulting way to begin. With your emotions, your story, and all your adrenaline. It's not a good way to start. So they say start with your facts, which you know. It's the least controversial. It provides a safe beginning. And then also when you jump to conclusions, that's also highly controversial. So again, it says, the example they gave us, if you tell someone you can't be trusted, that's not a fact, okay, and they can be disputed. So we need to be very, very careful when we jump to conclusions. The authors continue to say, facts are most persuasive than subjective conclusions. And facts also form a foundation for our beliefs. So don't start with your story, start with an observation. What do you notice? So there's a good example also, the authors say, instead of accusing someone of sexual harassment, say you're sexually harassing me, you'd be like, start with your observations. I notice that your eyes, they look at me and they move up and down, and you're touching my shoulder. Those are facts. This is what this person's doing. So you don't accuse them of anything. You just notate, hey, I'm making an observation. So also, very, very important, goal is not to persuade others that we're right. This isn't about a debate contest. We're not trying to push our point. The point is, though, we just want our meaning, what we have to share, to have a fair hearing. We want people to hear us. That's pretty much it when we're trying to have a constructive conversation, open flow of dialogue. You have to have a spot. Everyone needs a spot for their opinions to be heard. So when we start with conclusions, and we like, oh, you're this, that, and the other, that's how we encourage other people to tell a villain story about us. In the last section, we talked about the victim story, the villain story, and then the helpless story. So the villain one is when like you're labeled as a monster, and the authors say right here, if you start with accusing people, they're going to just instantly start with, well, they're going to conclude that you're either completely stupid or you're evil, and that, again, will shut down conversation fast. So the thing is, if you're not sure, before you have your crucial talk, we need to sort out the facts from our conclusions, because obviously we could be wrong. And here's a beautiful quote from page 127 to 128. Let others see your experience from your point of view, starting with your facts. Tell it as a possible story, not as a concrete fact. So when you do reach a conclusion, or when you get to what conclusion you think it is, the person will understand better if you give them the information, the facts first. So the second letter is T for the acronym. So the first one was share your facts with S. Next one is T. Tell your story. Because without your story, the facts are just kind of like useless information. Like, okay, you touch my shoulder. Okay? Or your eyes look at, so that's just information. So you got to tell your story through that. And then it's very, very important, they say, facts plus the conclusion that you're getting. This calls for a face-to-face discussion, okay? And I haven't made mention of it before, but I did have it in my notes to share that these communication tools and tactics from Crucial Conversations, This is designed not exclusively, but it is best used and utilized in person face-to-face conversation. This isn't things that need to be done on social media or through a text or an email. I mean, you can use similar tactics, of course, but this is everything here is preferable to have face-to-face, in-person conversations or interactions whenever possible, when applicable. So, again, it says facts plus a conclusion that call for face-to-face discussion. And it takes confidence to be honest. It really, really does. And that requires doing your homework, getting all the facts ready. And it's very important to know that when we do lack the confidence and we keep the information, they say don't stack it up, because if you're keeping the information bottled up, when you are ready to talk, when you're forced to talk, that's usually when people are come out with the insults and their emotions are all crazy and they end up saying mean things and then nothing gets done. So do not bottle it up, but always look for safety. And another crucial tidbit right here, little golden nuggets. Do not apologize for your view. Okay? This is important. Instead of saying, I'm sorry that I feel this way, you need to say sorry. You need to contrast. And contrasting is when you notice safety's at risk, when a person's starting to shut down or they're starting to get angry, this is when you need to, okay, I'm going to step out of the situation. You need to acknowledge the other person's feelings, what they may be thinking or feeling, acknowledge that. And then you need to find a mutual, something that you guys can agree on, a mutual respect, acknowledging that they're a breathing, living human being with emotions and feelings. Add your concern. This is where I'm coming from with this. This is my story. This is kind of where I'm coming from. And then, but you don't need to apologize. The goal isn't to water down your message, but it's, you want to make sure that people hear what you want them to hear without giving them something else, something that wasn't intended. You want just to correct information, not trying to water down your message, but not trying to beat the other person down either. And so after we tell our story, we go to the third letter in the acronym, which is A. And A, I think, is one of the most important ones because it helps to bridge everything, which is to ask. Letter A in the acronym STATE, letter A is ask. Ask for others' path. So the key to sharing sensitive idea is to blend the confidence with the humility. And I have it in the notes that I'm going to be sharing. So to express confidence, that's by sharing our facts. But to demonstrate your humility, that's when you ask others their views. So if the goal is to learn, not trying to win, but if you want to learn, you need to be willing to hear other views and encourage them. So an example on page 31 is quoted saying, then carefully listen to what they have to say. Be willing to abandon or reshape any of your own ideas in your story as more information pours into the pool of meaning. So you're trying to continue a conversation. It's very important for business promotion or a project that you're working on or an argument with your spouse. You need to be willing to change your story and say, hey, I was wrong about this. I need to change the thoughts and redirect. Okay? So continue to ask the person how they feel about the situation. So that's the end of segment 2. I'm going to jump into segment 3 and we're going to get into some really good stuff. This stuff is awesome. Okay, so again, just a little recap for the acronym because it's kind of a lot to take into it because I've been reading this book several different times. So S is for share your facts. T is for, sorry. Where am I? I lost my notes. I'm so sorry. Okay. Tell your story. So share your facts, tell your story, and ask others. So the next 2, let's get into this. Good stuff. Okay. Sorry about that. Give me one moment, please. All right. So segment 3, the how skills. Letter T. Okay. So this one again, all of it's important, but I think this is a very, very good tip for people who are great natural talkers, natural born leaders who are very passionate, myself included, very passionate about stuff. So this one is very, very important for people like me. Talk tentatively. Okay? So the example on 134 is saying things like, I was wondering, or I made the observation, I noticed, or perhaps. And that simply means we share our story as just our story, sharing it as an opinion, but not as fact. Okay, so when you're talking to someone, it's like the tentative tone and approach is like, hey, like I don't really know about this. I have these suspicions, or I have this reason to believe, or I'm getting the impression. Okay, nothing absolute. And it's when we share our story with a blend of confidence and humility, the authors say, quote it, express appropriate confidence in your conclusions while demonstrating that, if appropriate, you want your conclusions to be challenged. You want the other person to say, hey, they're not coming off as like a know-it-all. Like they genuinely want to have a conversation. That's the objective. So you need to soften your message, trying to open flow of dialogue. We're not forcing it on people. Facts and stories help reduce the defensiveness, making it safe for others with differing opinions. Talking tentatively increases influence, but don't be wimpy, which also shuts down communication. So on page 132, I have it kind of shorthanded. It says, the only safe way to share a touchy idea or data is to act as if it's not important. That's not the goal here. It is important. That's why you're having the conversation. You have an opinion. You that's the confidence. You have something to say. But you need to share it in a language that it's an opinion, not that you are a nervous wreck, like, oh my God, I know, like, this is so terrible, and I probably messed this up, and, it's not really that big a deal. It is a big deal. That's why you're in the position that you're in. This is why we're having these conversations. This is why you're working there. You have something to contribute. So don't be a nervous wreck, and you have to find the balance between the not too hard approach and not too soft. They call it the Goldilocks effect. You got to find the just right. So the just right. Let's go to number 5, or letter E, which is encourage testing. So how do we talk tentatively and find the balance between being confident and being humble? We need to invite others to talk. Simple as that. And let them know that they can share anything they need to with, nothing, no matter what, no matter how controversial. The person needs to believe that they can be able to talk, and you're not going to lose it. They need to feel safe, sharing observations and stories, even if there's different opinions. And this is very, very important. I put an asterisk in the notes. Very crucial. If they don't speak up, you can't test accuracy and reevaluate your views. And a beautiful quote on page 134, it says, understand that the only limit to how strongly you can express your opinion is your willingness to be equally vigorous in encouraging others to challenge it. So we need to invite opposing views. Okay, if others are hesitant, it's whoever, is more skilled at communicating, you need to make it clear that you want to hear the others' views, even if they disagree. And even better, 100 points for this, respect them for finding the courage to express their thoughts. And you can say something like, I'd really like to hear the other side of the story. I'd love to hear your perspective. I'd love to hear your input or additional thoughts. And it's very crucial that you mean it. You can't just say things and then dismiss everything you just talked about. You need to invite them to share with words and tone. And one of the tips they give you is to play devil's advocate. You can model by disagreeing with your own point. I have lots of discussion points. You can go on a laundry list, but then you can also list reasons why people would be opposed to it. I can see why people wouldn't want to do this. This is an issue because of this, that, and the other. Does anyone else have any other things that they want to say that this is a bad idea? I'm open to hearing any negative feedback. We need to know. Just tell me what you think about this and have it open. That's that's the objective. Play your own devil's advocate. Okay, and here's also another area where it gets a little bit tricky, because you got some people, again, natural born leaders, people who are very, very passionate, who are just natural orators, who can talk really well, effective communicators. Okay, so strong beliefs. When advocating your point of view and starting to push too hard, it moves others to silence. Our story tells us that it's our duty. It's what people of character do. Wrongfully justifies our excuse to use what they call dirty tricks in dialogue when we believe it's our call to fight. So some dirty tricks are you stack the deck, you overtalk people, you give them a monologue, you attack the person's character, you label them, you appeal to authority, you make generalizations, you just keep pounding information. That's what you call some dirty tricks in dialogue. And so how do you change that? Changing our story and mindset, we need to notice these things and we need to back off. Okay? When you're trying to convince others, the best way to do is you need to start with heart. Ask yourself, the authors say, how would I behave if these were the results I really wanted? So watch for the moment there's any resistance. If a person's just like, if they give you the blank stare, like I don't know what to say, I'm done, or like they're giving you dirty looks, or they start retaliating against you, that's when you need to back off and turn from the topic back to yourself. You need to notice: are you raising your voice? Are you leaning forward? Is your fist clenched? Are you giving the eyebrow Morse code like look? The nonverbal cues, you need to be paying attention to that. So turn back to yourself and then tone down your approach and open up yourself to believe like others have something to share. And this is very, very important. They may have a key missing piece, valuable information, and we need to ask for others' views because people could have some important information that they just don't feel comfortable sharing, and that could be it could be catastrophic. One little missing information because someone was too afraid to talk. Serious problem. We need to change that. So, soften your language when you are positive about something. If you know for sure that you're right, there's no shadow of a doubt that you're wrong, it can be really difficult. But that's when you really need to soften your approach. And it's okay to have a strong opinion. And the authors just say like, hey, what the problem comes when we force our ideas trying to express them. And it says emotions can turn ideas into painful thoughts, and honest passion kills an argument rather than supports it. So catch yourself. Example on page 140. Back off your harsh and conclusive language, not your belief. Hold on to your belief and your opinion and your contributions, but merely soften your approach. So in closing, I'll just go over it right now. We're going to talk about it right now. 1 second. So, in closing, we need to, again, state. First letter is share. Share your facts. Next letter is T. Tell your story. A. Ask for others' paths. T. Talk tentatively. And lastly, encourage testing. So with that, I hope everyone has taken a little bit of something from this. Again, we're going through the book Crucial Conversations, Talking When Stakes Are High. Chapter 7, it was State My Path. Again, it is June 22nd, 2022. I've been your host, that girl, Jenna Kirisoa. I truly hope at any point in time you're consuming this content, you're doing well. And as always, God's peace.